AI content detectors have soon become must-have tools in the daily job of many people. Whether you're an educator or a publisher who want to ensure academic integrity or brand reputation, or whether you're a writer or a student who want to see how their writing is perceived, you're both relying on this tool regularly. In both cases, you might wonder which among all the AI detectors on the market are the most accurate. Well, hold on, because in this video, I'm going to show you the most extensive benchmark and studies on these AI detectors. Based on this research, I'm going to give you a detailed and objective ranking on the 6 best AI detectors. Sounds good to you? Let's go. Before talking about this ranking, I like to disclose how I evaluated these AI detectors. My evaluation has been mostly based on the most recent and reliable benchmark at this time, the RED academic paper. It is a very large dataset where AI detectors have been tested on more than 6 million AI-generated text. Sadly, this paper only covers some of the AI detectors I'm going to talk about here. So I also relied on smaller studies like the one from the Open Information Science Journal or the own benchmark studies of Turnitin and Copyleaks, while I also consider their own inherent biases. Based on this research, I've looked and compared these tools through several criteria. Criteria number 1, the accuracy. That is the ability of the AI detector to distinguish between AI-generated text and human-written text. False positives, that is the rate at which an AI detector flags incorrectly and human-written text as AI-generated. This is definitely a critical metric, especially in professional and academic settings where false accusation can damage reputation. Adversarial robustness, that is how well an AI detector resists multiple tricks like adding some random noise, paraphrasing, etc. But we also covered 2 other critical aspects: the usability of the interface, the multiplicity of features that are useful to people who use AI detectors, of course also the pricing, whether it's like a free trial or not, that can be also useful to know, and of course the comparison of the pricing from one tool to the other. So now I'm going to show you the full detailed ranking from the best to the worst. Number 1, Originality AI. Originality AI is a well-paid AI detector and plagiarism checker aimed at content publishers and professional writers. It uses a proprietary machine learning model to evaluate text likelihood of being AI generated. The company hasn't disclosed its exact algorithm, but it's presumably a fine-tuned transformer model trained on large datasets of human and AI text. The current models are the light version, with the least false positives, but the least accuracy also, and the turbo version, which is more accurate, but with also more false positives. Plus, there is also a multilingual version. For each of these models, the tool gives a AI likelihood score and highlights the sections most likely to be AI. It can also serve as a plagiarism and fact-checking checker, but also for grammar and readability. It can also analyze a whole website, useful to see if you can trust a source or to check your website, but you have to pay a fee to do that. What's also interesting with Originality AI is that it also integrates seamlessly into content workflows, especially through a browser plugin or the API or even a WordPress plugin, so that web publishers can scan block draft or client submissions for any AI-generated text. About performance, Originality AI has the highest accuracy among all the AI detectors. In the RED benchmark, it has the most accurate detector score overall. It achieved about 85% accuracy on the base test dataset. It also keeps a rather low positive rates when choosing reasonably low false positive threshold to avoid them. It's not the lowest though in the market. In high false positive threshold, there are many cases of Originality AI flagging legitimate content claimed by user online. So you better be careful, especially since the default false positive threshold is quite high. In terms of adversarial robustness, this tool proved remarkably robust against many common attacks. According to the RED study, Originality AI ranked first in 9 out of 11 adversarial attack test. It handles paraphrased AI content especially well, detecting paraphrase-generated text with almost 97% accuracy, versus an average of 59% for other detectors. But despite strong overall robustness, Originality AI does have blind spot with a couple of rarely used bypassing techniques. Notably, it struggled with the homoglyph attack, replacing characters with lookalikes, and zero with characters, which are invisible Unicode inserted into the text. When it comes to pricing, Originality AI operates on a credit-based pricing models. It offers pay-as-you-go plans around 0.01 per 100 word scan. There's also a monthly subscription, which is almost $15 per month, that includes a bulk allotment of credits. There's no permanent free version, but news users sometimes get a free credit to trial it. The best use case for Originality AI is for content marketers, bloggers, and editors who want to regularly need to ensure their writers are not using AI tool, or to verify originality for SEO purposes. It's rather popular among website owners. For academic or educational use, Originality AI is less common. Educators often use better Turnitin or free tools instead, since Originality AI requires payment and was built more for web content. As a best practice, content teams should use Originality AI as a first pass, and then might double-check suspicious text with a second detector, like for example GPTZero for confirmation, especially on pieces that Originality AI marked as human despite doubts. Number 2, GPTZero. GPTZero is definitely one of the earliest and most widely used AI content detector. Launched in early 2023, it gained media attention as a tool for teachers to catch AI-generated essays. GPTZero uses two main metrics in its analysis model: perplexity, how predictable the text is, and burstiness, variation in sentence length. By comparing these to typical human writing patterns, it gives a probability score that text was AI written. You can use the normal or the advanced AI scan for more details on the sections and sentence triggered. There is also a convenient Chrome extension and an API easy to connect. For the performance, GPTZero displays a good accuracy with latest models, but a lower accuracy in general. It beats Originality AI on the latest models like ChatGPT 4.0, but its score lower in sensitivity and false negative rate overall, with an average of 67% on the RAID study, which means it missed about 35% of AI text. It has also one of the lowest false positive. The RAID study found that GPTZero had a false positive rate of almost 0%, beating Originality AI, which is on average 1%. GPTZero is also the most robust against adversarial attacks. In the RAID benchmark, GPTZero's accuracy only slightly decreased when AI text was paraphrased, had misspellings, or even when homoglyph characters were introduced. In some cases, performance stayed almost the same. For example, GPTZero barely flinched at the homoglyph attack, only at 0.3 drops of accuracy, whereas most other detectors collapsed. This resilience likely comes from GPTZero's inherent design focusing on perplexity. So adding odd character spacing doesn't change the statistical perplexity as much as it confuses other models. In terms of pricing, GPTZero offers a free web versions that allow a limited number of checks per day. There's also a free sign-up that increases limit. For heavy users, GPTZero also has a premium plan, targeting educators and organizations, which starts around $10 per month. The API is also available for developers on a pay-per-use basis, which is useful if you want to integrate GPTZero into your app or workflow. Overall, the cost is rather low compared to other detectors, and it's quite affordable, especially the premium plan for schools. The best use case for GPTZero is actually many use cases because it's like a great all-purpose detector. But it works well also for academia and education in particular. Teachers and professors can use the free version to spot check student work for AI content. Students and writers can use it to self-check their work. However, you also might pair GPTZero with another tool that's more aggressive to cover both hands. Number 3, Binoculars. Binoculars is an open source AI detection tool that uses an hybrid approach to classifying text as human written or AI generated. According to the red paper, its core detection mechanism relies on the traditional perplexity-based analysis, but also on a new token distribution modeling, which is very specific to an AI model training. This dual-layer approach helps discriminate between AI and human more effectively than detectors that rely solely on a single technique. Human writing typically shows greater variety in token frequency, while AI remains relatively uniform. For Binoculars performance, it has the second lowest false positive rate. It achieves an almost 0% positive rate like GPTZero in cautious false positive threshold. So it's one of the most secure and reliable AI detector. It has also the second highest accuracy among all the models. However, it is less robust against AI paraphrasing. Like other AI detectors, Binoculars especially struggle with synonym swap, but also homoglyph like Originality AI. It's even one of its biggest flaws. Binoculars is also not really made for different languages. It has not been trained on other languages than English text, so you shouldn't use it, and the developers themselves warn you about using it for a different language. Given its high detection capabilities, Binoculars seem like a good choice for educational institutions, marketer, and researcher. But it's actually not made for commercial purpose. It's only available through a coding setup. There's no API or interface. So actually, it's only really accessible for researchers. Number 4, Turnitin. Turnitin, as you know it, is the company synonymous with plagiarism checking in academia. Turnitin rolled out its own AI writing detector in early 2023 directly in its platform, and it's really used by a lot of schools and universities. Turnitin leverages an undisclosed proprietary transformer-based model to predict if a given sentence is written by an AI. According to Turnitin's white paper, the model was trained on academic writing data and GPT-generated text, especially focusing on identifying the signature of AI-created prose. It provides results at the document level, so the overall percentage of text likely AI written, and also highlights suspected sentences. In terms of performance, it's actually difficult to assess it objectively since Turnitin has been not tested on the red benchmark, which is of course the most reliable benchmark right now. The other studies are too small to be really reliable, so we can only rely on these partial studies. One paper from the Open Information Science journal found that Turnitin correctly identified the AI versus human for 126 tests with 0 false errors. So it seems like he has a very good accuracy. One other claim from the developer of Turnitin is that it has a low false positive rate. They state that it has like a false positive rate of around 1% or less in their testing. This claim comes from a study from 800,000 generated text. The Open Information Science study seems to support that since there's like no false positives recorded in this study. Another Turnitin study also shows that it has a false positive rate that doesn't change that much from a text created by a native English writer and an L2 English writer. So Turnitin seems to have trained the model on avoiding this bias, which usually will be on the disfavor of people who are not native of the English language. In terms of adversarial robustness, it's quite uncertain. There's limited data on how it handles adversarially modified text, so you cannot really know. As for the pricing, it's actually not very transparent because the Turnitin AI detector comes as part of Turnitin services for academic institutions. There's no separate pricing. University and schools pay for Turnitin in general, and this AI features comes with no extra charge. For an individual, there's effectively no way to buy this service directly. You have to get access to it via the learning management system or through Turnitin website for educators. So of course, the best use case for Turnitin is built for academic institutions and educators. It's the go-to solution for universities, colleges, high schools that usually already rely on it for plagiarism checking. Number 5, Copyleaks. Copyleaks company is actually already known for their plagiarism detection software. But since early 2003, they also designed an AI content detector, and that is quite adopted in some educational settings. The Copyleaks detector uses a combination of AI model to analyze text for patterns typical of machine-generated content. According to their documentation, it likely uses transformer-based classifiers and statistical analysis, of course perplexity also, to assign an AI-generated probability score. Copyleaks highlights portions of text that seems AI written. It also offers 3 levels of sensitivity, with also an accuracy and false positive rate that varies around this sensitivity. In terms of performance, it's the same case than Turnitin. It's not on the red studies, so we can only rely on small studies. For example, the Open Information Science study showed that Copyleaks identify 100% of AI written versus human written documents, with no errors. So it seems to have a good accuracy. Copyleaks also displayed a lot of other studies in their website that seems to point in this direction. It seems to have a good accuracy. In the same Open Information Science study, it also produced 0 false positives. It did not mistakenly flag any human written text as AI. So yeah, it seems also that it has a low false positive rate, but there's no enough objective evidence for this claim. Just like Turnitin, there's less public research on Copyleaks' performance against adversarial attacks. So we cannot give a conclusion here also. For the pricing, Copyleaks offers a subscription plan for its AI detector that are quite okay. For example, one plan is around almost $10 per month for 100 credits, where one credit is 250 words, and the higher tiers like 14 per month for more credits. So it's in the average of the other AI detectors. There's also an access via an API and even a Microsoft Word plugin and a LMS integration for educators. Because of that, Copyleaks is a good tool for educational institutions, but also big enterprises that need an integrated plagiarism plus AI detection solution that will benefit them. Number 6, Winston. Winston AI is a newer commercial detector that offers features beyond just text analysis. It uses a proprietary AI model that most likely employs a large transformer-based classifier. According to the developers, Winston AI analyzes the writing style and the entropy of the writing structures. It provides a probability score for AI and highlights sentences similar to what the other AI detectors do. It is accessible via a web interface, but it also includes, of course, an API and some plagiarism checking capabilities. For the performance, Winston AI is actually in the red study. And the red study showed that it has a very high accuracy, but only on ChatGPT text. It is indeed actually good at detecting text generated by well-known models like GPT 3.5, GPT-4. It even achieved about 90% on this model. But on the other models, it's less accurate. It doesn't beat Originality AI, and it has like an accuracy overall which is of 71%. Winston also has a higher false positive rate than the other models. It achieves a worse false positive rate than GPTZero, Originality AI, and Binoculars, which is around 1%, which can still be okay and can be lowered with even lower positive rate threshold than the one in the experiment. It's also quite vulnerable to specific adversarial attacks. For example, in the red study, it was quite vulnerable to homomorphism attacks and space additions. For the pricing, Winston AI is also available through subscription plans that are in an average pricing compared to the other AI detector. The basic plan is about $18 per month and allows scanning up to 80,000 words per month. The advanced plan is around $29 per month for up to 200,000 words, so that's a lot. The platform offers a free trial also, so you can just test it on the interface. When it comes to the use cases, I think Winston works well for academic and publishing institutions that really require a thorough content verification. Publishers, journal editor, and content agencies could use Winston to screen submission for both AI content and plagiarism in just one pass. The detailed report, including a PDF export of the result, is actually quite convenient to get a nice overview that is easily shareable. Apart from these most accurate AI detectors on the market, I also wanted to give some honorable mention. One of them is Zero GPT, who has quite a high accuracy and low false positive rate, and for a free tool, it may be one of the best free AI tools you can find. There are other several AI detectors like Sapling, Crossplag, Content at Scale, Writer. Some of them have niche strength, but none of these really outperform the one I just gave you. Okay, now you know what are the most accurate and reliable AI detectors that you can find on the market. But I couldn't end this video without this quick note about the limitation of AI detectors. Even for the best AI detectors, these are not 100% foolproof. So if you're using them for a critical judgment, you might be led to an unfair mistake. Here are especially some of the key issues highlighted by current academic literature that you should know more about. False positives. This is the most notorious issue with AI detectors. Even detectors that are the best sometimes flag perfectly human writing as machine generated. Non-native English writers are particularly at risk. One study showed that over 60% of essays by non-native English students were falsely tagged as AI by detectors. So that is really big. This is why many tools and developers aim to minimize these false positives by lowering the false positive threshold. But this comes at the expense of catching every AI use, so it increases the rate of the false negatives. Easy to fool with simple tricks. So as I've told you earlier with like the adversarial attacks, AI detectors are really vulnerable to some very simple modification techniques. These can be like paraphrasing, using synonyms, inserting typos or just random noise, random spaces, replacing characters with lookalikes, so what we call homoglyphs. All of this can dramatically lower detectors' confidence and even change completely the judgment and evaluation they make. So if one of your student or worker is just modifying the text, it will change completely the evaluation. Biases and fairness. So we talked about the biases around non-native English users, but that's not the only case. There's other biases that developers fear can impact the detectors. For example, creative writing, poetry that breaks conventional rules might confuse detectors. Writing by younger students, so with simpler structure, could be also unfairly flagged. All of these false accusations could increase the inequalities in the academic settings, but also in the workplace. The reliability and the calibrations. So we didn't talk about this a lot in the ranking, but many detectors lack a proper calibration by default. The red benchmark found that some open detectors use thresholds that led to dangerously high false positive rates, but it was for most cases open source AI detectors. For like private AI detectors, it's a bit less the case. But the thing is, you cannot calibrate usually by yourself very precisely this tool, like for example, Turnitin on GPTZero or Originality AI. So you don't have like full control over the tool. So for example, if you want to be way more accurate, to be really sure if there's AI there, or if you want to be more cautious and so really try to avoid the false positive, you cannot really do that and change that. Evolving AI models. That's also a big thing. Since AI text generators like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, they're evolving all the time. And AI detectors, so they always have to evolve and to adapt to the algorithm and to the new patterns that these models make emerge. So if a majority of people are using always the latest models, and then the AI detectors are not updated early enough, you won't be that confident in your judgment. Lack of standard benchmarking. So that's something here that we stated on the ranking. There's really a lack of data and studies around the accuracy and positive rates of all these AI detectors. So there's the red benchmark that is quite extensive, but as you can see, it lacks some of the best AI detectors on the market. So there's some confidence that is not there yet. Across all these recommendations, what's the biggest takeaway? Well, when judging a piece of AI content, you should always double check it with multiple AI detectors and also use human judgment. If the consequences of your judgment are too significant, I even recommend you not using at all these AI detectors because they're just too unreliable to get like a fair and ethical decision. Also, I recommend you to encourage the proper usage of AI among your students, workers, and writers instead of just punishing them for using it. Because at the end, it will become commonplace in everyday life, and it's best for everyone to know how to use them and to adapt to them. I personally teach professionals to get quality and thoughtful writing from their AI. So you can check out my free educational resources from this channel or from my website intellectually.com if you want to know more about this. Alright, that's the end of the video. If you found it helpful, don't forget of course to like it, to subscribe, or to leave a comment if you have any question on this subject. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video.